Hello everybody. I hope I don't have to introduce myself. Hope some of you know me at least. So I hopefully can guide you through this portfolio building and give you something of value. So first of all, I would like to start by saying that portfolio, apart from what you think as it's something I need to give it to someone so that they know what work I've done, I would like to think of it as something which belongs only to you and it showcases your individuality. So when I was making my portfolio, the only thing I had in my mind for my internship was they should know that I'm confident in this software or I've done this kind of design. But actually, what happens in the office is you are letting your portfolio speak for you, and there are some assumptions people can make by looking at your portfolio. So those would be these. So you are letting people judge your aesthetic sense. How organized are you? And will you fit in the office well? Are you proactive? Do you involve yourself in other activities? And most importantly, apart from academics and everything, what else are you offering them? Are you a good graphic designer? So there are so many other things that the single document can convey to your employer. So it has to be treated with that kind of importance. It's just not a place where you just put in your projects and send it to someone. So this is what I would like to think about my portfolio, is that I'm celebrating my effort. The entire 5 years I have spent, doing details and sitting up all night. So a portfolio for me is a place where I celebrate those efforts. I have to show them, look, this is my work. So if I'm not going to celebrate my effort and my design, I don't think anybody else is going to come forward and celebrate it for me. So I think you guys should also think of it as celebration of your design efforts. Show them that, I am happy and, lucky to be showcasing you all this work that I've done. So the first thing I start with while doing a portfolio would be storyboards. So when we think about storyboards, we loosely translate it to just layouts. Storyboard is just, putting things here and getting the layout done. But actually, a storyboard can also be translated into much more, where I have categorized it into three parts. So the first part is where you identify your project. So if those of you in 4th and 5th years, you would have about 8 to 10 projects to showcase. So I'd say make like a card where you categorize them scale wise. You also find out your pros and cons in each project. So here I've like listed down, some random pros and cons. Might be different for you, but this is what I have come up with. So some projects we don't have a model, the model is broken, or we just didn't put effort that particular semester to come up with a nice model, or there's always a semester where suddenly you're very form oriented and you have really worked your ass off and coming up with a great form exploration, you have done a good massing, but you don't have a model, something like that. So if you do this, you'll understand how much work is needed in which projects. Say for example, in project B, so I'm highly responsive with my site and I have all my files ready, but my physical model is broken and my sections are not that great. So I can decide between, do I want to improve my model or do I want to improve my section? So such things, if you put together a document like this, it will make it much more easier for you to decide what is going to go on my portfolio. So here I mentioned something called a project D, which does not have a scale. This project D is something apart from your design studios. We don't always have to show just the AD submissions we're doing. There are other submissions which are equally, important, and equal amount of effort has gone into it. So here I've just listed down these things which can very well go into a portfolio if you wanted to. It does not have to be limited to just your design studio. So imagine there's a theory of architecture exercise you had done, which was really interesting. and you had done a great amount of research in that, you had put a lot of thinking into that, and if you want it to go on the portfolio, it can very well go on the portfolio. Nothing is stopping you from putting it on the portfolio, because that's a part of who you are and that's showing your individuality. So I think with this project B, what you can do is uh, like really focus on that one skill you are really good at with using all these things. So if you are very practical oriented, you can show a great material exploration you have done. It can include market research, it can include anything you want. So it all depends on how you portray it. If you showcase as a personal interest and put it in such a way that they're impressed by it, of course it can go on the portfolio. I think it adds a lot of value. So all of you should actually have a project B in your storyboarding, which is something apart from a regular design project. So the next thing is picking a project from these 6 to 8 projects you have. Okay, so here is where you decide which area am I ready to put my effort, where my cons can turn into pros. You can decide it based on minimum effort required. You can decide it based on design you want to showcase. So there are various things where you can show point that I'll work on this project and convert my con into a pro. So based on that, you pick a few projects, and that's where you move ahead with how many projects you've selected. The next step is to organize your projects. I think this is a really important step after you have chosen your project. So this is a graph I created to show how much selecting a project and organizing them impacts whoever is reading your document. So basically, this white graph is the interest level of your reader. So what happens is cover page and contents page, it's pretty much expected. So your interest levels are going to be a straight line. And first project is where you have the advantage of spiking the interest level of your reader. I would say go with your strongest project for your first presentation. And from there on, the interest starts to decrease a little bit. So in the middle also plug a really strong project so that again you can get their interest levels high. And also end on a strong project. So you kind of create a rhythm where in your interest levels as well as the number of pages. So when I did my internship portfolio, I was really keen on having just 3 pages for a project. I think that's wrong, because you are making the person who is reading your portfolio get used to a pattern. So I don't think it should be a goal. It should be to create a good rhythm where one who is reading, he is left wanting to see more. Under make or break, there are certain things which, even if you have put in all your efforts as a designer very well into the project, these things can make or break your portfolio. These are like ingredients which go inside. So if even one is less or more, it can destroy the whole portfolio. So first is choosing a page size. So we are all in this virtual world. So there are hundreds of platforms where you can showcase your portfolio. So I was actually stuck with, what is the page size do I go with? Some people say stick to the standards A4 or A3, or some people say, go with some crazy sized page so that offices think it's cool. I don't think any of it makes sense, because if you just have to decide which platform you're going to show it on. For example, if you're going to send a Google Drive link, you have to optimize it according to that. So if somebody is going to view it on a laptop, you have to keep it consistent to the aspects of it. So for a laptop, I would say 16:9 ratio works. So whatever file size sheet size suits that aspect ratio, you should just go with it. And also this thing will help you decide whether you should go with a portrait layout or a landscape layout. So if you're viewing it on a laptop, I would say landscape layout makes the most efficient layout possible, because it's not leaving any negative spaces. The person who is viewing it is only viewing your portfolio. And one thing I don't like about this Google Drive is that even when you're viewing your portfolio, it has like a translucent background. So you can still keep seeing stuff happening in your background, and that could be distracting for the one who's reading it. So I would say choose the medium where you're going to present your portfolio really well. So that itself will decide your sheet size and sheet layout. Also, some people like to go with a printed sheet format, which happens rarely, but you can go ahead with that. Other things to keep in mind is readability. So, for example, if I go with an A1 size sheet for my portfolio, I am actually, because of the sheet size, I am forced to put lot of information on the sheet, which increases my file size. And since most offices want only 5 or 6 GB as their portfolio thing, you are actually putting yourself in the foot by sticking to such a large sheet size. So keep it simple. You don't have to think too much about it. It's just about the aspect ratio and which will fit the entire screen of the person viewing it. So coming to layout, many people do a layout and then stick to it throughout their presentation. That just makes it boring. So I would say diversify. If you're going with portrait format, if you have taken this, go with a full bleed for one sheet, break it up into parts for another. So you can try a lot of layouts, just keep them consistent. That's all I would say. Same goes for landscape. You dedicate a space for text and dedicate a space for an image. And you can just keep playing with it. You don't have to stick with the same exact layout for every page. I have seen some people attempt this kind of layout. So what happens is you try and force something which is not going to fit in that frame into it, and everything else becomes a tedious task. And also, if you have a building which is, say, in a circular format or something, you are just trying to force two different aesthetic styles into one sheet, and then it becomes really, really hard task, to move forward with it. I don't personally find any value in making it harder for yourself and attempting these kinds of layouts. But if you can nail it, then you should go ahead with this. I personally find this, a very tedious task to organize such things. Okay, apart from your, layouts and stuff, organizing your drawings, there are certain things you can add on to your portfolio, which is part of the layout. So you have to decide it before you start your portfolio that, this particular thing is going to be in my layout and it's going to be consistent throughout my projects. So I've divided into 3 parts. So first goes your data. This is data. You don't have to think a lot about it. It's just about including it or not including it. So there goes your page number, your project number, and such raw data. What software have you used? Then second comes the credibility. So crediting group members on a portfolio, I would say do not add a lot of group projects because it can be really misleading and nobody can know what is the real effort you had put. So I would say skip the group projects and stick only to your own individual projects. But in certain circumstances, yes, you can add group projects, but make sure you credit the group members, which shows you're a credible person. You can mention your reading resources. Where did you get inspiration to do this? You can credit your professors. You can add your various websites you had taken this reference from. And then there are some things which in the layout are only particular to the individual, like learning outcome. So that's only going to be, really specific for you. And when you start off the design semester, you have, that these are the goals I want to attempt for this project. And you can also show them, how did I progress? Did I, reach my goal or not? Or why did it not happen so? So these kind of things, when it's put in the layout as a format thing, I think it adds a lot of value to who you are as a person, and it really emphasizes your individuality. Second, and then this is really, really important in your layouts, because we tend to overload pages and we think, don't call it as negative space. It is important space left so that whatever you're trying to show is highlighted. So you can see the MacBook Pro is highlighted on that page. So look at it like that. Then the next step is really, really important, is creating a mood board for your portfolio, where you pick and choose images as to how your portfolio is going to look. Is it going to be more hand-drawn, and are you going to include more hand-drawn graphics, and or is it going to be more illustrative, where you're not going on a fully. So this is where you kind of decide the direction your portfolio needs to take. Are you going to keep it really oriented towards professional renderings and professional drawings, or are you taking more of an illustrative path? So this step dictates your entire project. So I understand that every semester you would have taken different steps for each project, but when you create this mood for your portfolio, you have to understand that you need to recreate your content. You can't keep same things you had used and then put it in this portfolio. It's not going to make any sense. So you have to understand that when you're going towards creating a mood for your portfolio, you will have to rework, recreate, even create content from scratch for this purpose. Now, fonts. So this is just like a tidbit I found, that the thing we often refer as font is not actually called font. It's called a typeface, and the variations of that particular typeface is called a font. There are a lot of rules regarding font pairings and what is the font you need to use where. So I would suggest all of you to study that very well, because fonts are really, really important. And I'll just show it to you in a minute why. So these are the font pairings I go with, where in the first example, I have just taken the one typeface and used two different variations of it. The second is where I've used two contrasting typefaces. The third is they both belong to the same category. So I just play with these three formulas. If you do not know which font you should go with, I would say just stick to the out favorites like Helvetica. You cannot go wrong in such a font, or you stick with one font and use the variations. So that itself, but choose a font which has these many variations from thin to heavy. So if you do this, you are good to go with one font only. You don't have to worry about pairing them or using. Oh, and I would also like to really stress that do not use more than two fonts. It just looks bad. Two fonts and maybe another one, but more than that, it just makes everything messy. So yeah, this is the example I was talking about, where you can see that tremendous amount of effort has gone into this project. It's, I don't know, about 70-80 floors. But what I see on the sheet is that this font is actually as big as the building itself. So maybe those things could have been reworked. And this blue thing on the side, it's not adding any value. There's nothing on it. So instead of that, you could just make the font smaller and emphasize more on the building. And of course, you need to avoid these fonts: Papyrus, Comic Sans, and then Curls. I think you guys know all that. Like, avoid these fonts at all costs. Same here, where these kind of really nice renders, but the font, the typeface chosen looks like it's not a very professionally chosen font. So the mood you're trying to convey is lost. So this is a great example of how well the typeface is paired and the hierarchy of them. So looking at it itself, the thing on the black arrow, it's part of a format. So that's not going to change. And the blue typeface is the title of the project. So you should be so clear in your depiction that once you look at it and you know that this particular thing is part of that. Coming to generating content for your portfolio. So not all semesters are we sitting and creating amazing graphic work for our uh, AD sheets, because let's be honest, it does not demand it. We are forced to fulfill these particular plan section elevation. So we tend to focus really more on that. But when it comes to portfolio, you are at a point where you need to create some great content for your portfolio, because we're all in a visual age, so you have to grab someone's attention. Say for example, you just have a model. You did not do great sheets that semester, but you do have a great model. You can create content like this. You just make a model, and even if you do not have sheets and model, you can just make a great model, and like this person has done here, show this. And I think this is very well enough for a project. And this is also a very different way of presentation, right? You don't see many portfolios doing this, but you have to understand how simple but how effective this is. You are showing your section, you have shown the different spaces inside. So with one model, if you can achieve 4 or 5 things, I would say go ahead and do it. It's just smart use of your resources and time. Second is, I would like all of you to go into this particular office, Fala Atelier. I think they create amazing graphic content, and they create amazing, renderings. So this here is this shop they had done, and you can see on this diagram what they're trying to do is show the plan as well as the wall elevations of each wall. So in this one particular drawing, they've achieved 2 things. I would say start thinking of content as this: how effectively yet simple you can show and make the other person understand your project. And this the image on the left, I know most of us are not creating this when we are in college submitting drawings. So I would say take the time to create drawings like this. It makes a huge impact. Instead of loading the page with the 5 plans which are repeating throughout, I would say just go for this one thing and just close the project. Second is, I would really like you all to take a really good look at this person's portfolio, Farang Alipur. It's a great portfolio. This is where I had taken reference for my portfolio. I think this portfolio actually defines what it means to generate content for your portfolio. So this person has added this thing called ideograms to all his projects. Not only is the way of his representation of concepts really different, but also is his, the phrase ideogram itself attracts somebody's attention. Instead of just saying, concept diagrams, people are just going to skip it. But if you rename it to something known as ideograms, naturally people are drawn towards this, and they're like, what is ideogram? So I would encourage all of you to go through his portfolio. Again, nobody is creating content like this for our AD sheets, because it's not the place for us to do so. Maybe you can, but portfolio is where it requires this thing to be created, at a much more larger scale. So exploded views, different types of representation. You can see he's added some human figures here. So it's not doing anything bad. So you have to come up with such visual content to make your portfolio interesting. Here he has again played with just the word invisible and created a great artwork out of it. So and here there is a photo montage of his project's overview. So these kind of things what I mean by create content for your portfolio. These things add much more value to it. Also, I forgot to say something in the beginning is that uh, internship portfolio, trust me, is the only place you are going to be allowed to use as many pages as you want and showcase whatever the hell you want. Because once you get into, if you're preparing for masters, it's there are a lot of limitations. You cannot exceed a page limit. You cannot showcase professional projects. And again, when you go into a professional environment, nobody is going to care about your academic project. So internship portfolio is where you get to go all out and show who you are. So I would say, enjoy this process and be free with it. Do not put certain limitations on yourself, which are just myths. You can go all out and make a crazy portfolio if you want to. This is another great example of how simple photo montages are very powerful in creating this collage. Here again, these are really simple Photoshop projects, and these graphics work really well because not only are you showing them what your project is, you're also telling them that, look, my project is worth creating this graphic for. That's how much I love this project, and I've created this out of my pure interest. Coming to software, I think most of us think that offices are looking for a huge exhaustive list of softwares. So I would categorize softwares into these 5 broad categories, where planning, modeling, rendering, enhancing is where you use Photoshop or Lightroom to pop your renders. And finally, organizing. I think people use Photoshop for organizing a lot of the times. I would really stress that please use InDesign to compose your sheets and go to the layout phase. I would really stress on using InDesign. So it's not compulsory that all projects need to go through this process of, first you go into CAD, then you model it on SketchUp, then you take it to Lumion, and then you enhance it on Photoshop. What happens is, if you give yourself a challenge, say, this particular project, I am only going to use CAD. I will make my content only with CAD. So a lot of the times what happens is you make a plan on CAD and then you put it on Photoshop just to color it. I think that can be done just on CAD. So understanding, utilizing a particular software to its maximum itself will give you some great content. You don't have to worry about shuffling between 100 softwares. So once if I have my plan ready, I would invest my time more on getting the line weights right and coloring, hatching, or whatever is on AutoCAD itself, because I'm reducing the step of opening Photoshop and going into it just for the sake of coloring a particular area. So what happens is, when you give yourself a challenge and make these interesting pockets as, this project I'll use just SketchUp. What can I do maximum with SketchUp? That's when you're going to explore that software, when you're limited. So if you say, I'm going to use only SketchUp, you have to figure out, okay, so how do I get the line weights right? So that's how you will go and explore as to how do you hide particular lines? How do you set this particular view so that, it looks like exact isometric. So when you limit yourself to a particular software, you start to explore it more, and let's be honest, you gain a little more mastery over it. So, and in the end, it's a win-win situation, because you have created amazing content just by using this one software. So you don't have to worry about, I did not render it. It's totally okay if your project is missing, a couple of renders. Nobody cares. So these are some examples where on the left, the blue diagram is just by using SketchUp. If you can create such a great diagram by using SketchUp, I don't think a render is required at all. This shows me that you are proficient with SketchUp. You know how to make visually good content. And again, the second diagram, instead of showing like area statement, let's say, which is all typed out, you can just model it on SketchUp and pull it out, and a little bit of Photoshop work will give you this amazing graphic. So you are creating content by using just one software. And then AutoCAD. I would say ArcDaily is the best place for you to look at how effective just plain black and white drawings can be. They are much more effective than we think. It does not need to be colored and rendered and all that. Just effective line weights do the job. So if you can see this house, I'm able to understand what this house is about. The section is celebrated so well. There is soil hacks, there are trees, there is life in the section with people, fan, chairs. So if I was the one who designed this and I'm going to put it in my portfolio, I would spend all my day making this section only. I do not care about the plan. I am not going to include a 3D because my section itself is conveying all of that. So I might as well invest my time in just making the section look really, really good. And I would like go for a full bleed section, for people to actually sit and see the section, because when I myself have said that, this particular section deserves to be on this entire page, they are going to be like, okay, why has she put this section for this entire page? What is so special in it? That's how you can grab someone's attention. Again, all of these are from SketchUp. Simple diagrams, but so effective. So these are some softwares I would want you guys to explore, which are not the go-to. So first is KeyShot. This is a great software for product renderings and interior renderings. So if any of you out there who's interested in furniture and product design, you should give this software a go. InDesign, like I said, it's easily like my top 5 softwares. So you guys should really explore InDesign. It's a great software. Next is Illustrator. I know some of you already use it, but more of you should get into Illustrator and see what's happening in Illustrator. And then there's Enscape, which is like Lumion's brother, but it does not tax your system that much. And I think Enscape works very well. I am not a fan of Lumion, so I would say explore Enscape. You can learn it in a matter of minutes. It's that easy and it gives great output. So any of you interested in hardcore realistic renders, you should explore Enscape. Then coming to cliches. So by cliches, I do not mean this is a really bad thing to do, but it has become bad only because we have repeated it so many times and we don't actually have a reason to do that. So first one is I'm actually going to go ahead, and this one is not even a cliche. This is a big sin: over rendering your plans and using some extreme texture mapping. This just looks really horrible on a portfolio, and I think a black and white plan itself is more readable than what this is. Any of you has already done your portfolio, I would say go ahead and give yourself a point if you have like attempted any of these cliches. So I am guilty of doing these myself, few of them. And if you are like getting a point on every cliche, I think it's time for you to think and rework your portfolio, because these things, when you're in college, even I didn't realize that, oh my god, so many people do the same thing. But when you go to an office, even just by looking at your cover page, we can decide that, oh my god, I know what this portfolio is going to look like. It's just going to be the same thing, because that's how many portfolios we get, and that's how many times these things get repeated. So this thing actually goes on all internship portfolios where there's extreme rendering and unnecessary rendering, I would say. Then is this collage approach of doing a sheet. This is just bad, not readable. You are actually telling the person, hey, I don't know what is important, so let me just shove everything I have on the sheet and you can decide what you want to read. I think this is a very bad approach. You have to guide the person where he's supposed to look. So if you do this, you yourself are showing that this project did not need any effort to organize, so I'm just like putting everything there and you can sort it out for yourself. So, and like, this one is really bad. I'm a deep thinker coach. I think this should be avoided at all costs. It just makes you look bad. I think there's one included in the last page of every portfolio where you're like, oh, this is my ideal and I align with the ideas of this person. I think this should be like really abolished. It comes with every portfolio, guys. You guys are not the only ones doing this. So you should like remove it or put quotes of your own, or I don't know what you have to do with it, but this thing should go. Okay, this CV is it covers all the cliches there are to cover about a CV. I am guilty of doing these things. So first, starting with the really cocky quote out there, it's not required. You don't have to put any quotes on your CV. Second is technical skills. We all are, forced to show, what, I know 80% of CAD. Let me assure you that is not true. Once you go to an office, you will realize that you do not know anything in CAD. So, and by looking at your portfolio, people can decide how much of a software you know. So, number and that scale, you should actually remove it because nobody cares unless and until you have really, out of the box software skills. For example, you're good at Blender or Cinema 4D or Maya or something like that. Apart from the basic package of SketchUp, Photoshop, and AutoCAD, if you have something more, I think only that should go into your CV. But because once they look at your portfolio, you actually know how. If by looking at a render, I know how much of Lumion does this person know. So I would not put yourself through this painful task of grading yourself on the software because people will know. Uh, then comes languages, which I don't think is actually necessary. Okay, and we do not, no office cares about where you did your school. Yeah, and interest, I think using these icons for interest has become a thing. Myself have done it. So, because when I did it, I thought, oh my God, you know what? I'm going to use these cool icons. And that's going to be the talk of the town. But it is not. Every portfolio has it. So, I think TV is where you have to like really play and avoid these things. Next comes the packet. Oh, also in the CV, I would say do not use Facebook pictures and stuff like that. You should like use like a really professional, nice picture. If you don't want to use a picture, that is totally fine. Black and blue background. I think a lot of us attempt this. This is also something which happens all the time. Avoiding this font. This font comes as a thing for every portfolio. It's there, the architect font. I think we can. There are millions of other better fonts out there we can try. For the sake of it, here take your Lumion render. I think this should be avoided because for this building is not that impressive that it deserves like a realistic render. B, the angle is wrong. So there are a lot of aspects of rendering which in college we do not realize. First of all, it's not a realistic setting for this building to be in. So do not even put it. Nobody is going to put down your portfolio if you don't have a Lumion render, because I saw from some portfolios that some of the renders are just put in there. They are not adding any value. If it's not adding any value to your portfolio, just don't add it, because when you go to an office, of course, you will be exposed to realistic rendering, and that's where you learn, how much of effort this needs. And what we do in college is actually nothing unless you can meet industry standards for a realistic rendering. I would say don't attempt it. It just makes your portfolio look bad, and every portfolio comes with the token Lumion render put at the end of each project. It happens on every portfolio. So if it's not adding any value and you're not up to the industry standards of realistic render, just avoid it. It's not doing any harm to your portfolio. For the sake of, again, when we do like an interest page at the end, we are tempted to show, oh, I'm an architect, so I must be good at photography. If you're not good at photography, don't add it. It's not a must. You don't even have to add other skills if you don't want to. It's not a must. And oh my God, this page, playing with the word portfolio and with this exact font, I think it's done and dusted, and it should be phased out right now. So I would say for those of you interested in photography, instead of adding a page at the end which nobody is going to see, you might as well add a great picture on the cover page, because A, it's your own work. You don't have to credit anybody. And B, you're showcasing your skill on the first page itself. You don't need to put it in the last page. So these are, and if you're a great graphic designer, use your skills. Put your graphic work on the cover page itself. You don't have to just keep it limited to font. You don't even have to use the word portfolio to say it, because if you're sending it to an architectural office as an internship thingy, people know it's a portfolio. So I would say you can avoid the word, you can avoid, using this font and everything. Just go with what you think showcases who you are. So cover page is the only thing which is going to grab people's attention to go to the next page. So if you're going to keep it generic like this, people at the office already have seen this, and you're not drawing any kind of attention to your portfolio if you go with something like this. These things should be avoided at all costs. Do not put low resolution images and drawings. If you don't have anything else, just skip the project, but don't use low resolution images, because nothing shows a person you do not care than putting a low resolution image. So when you see a low resolution image, you know that this person like did not care even a little bit about that portfolio, because they let something like this slide in. Inconsistency in margins and page numbers. If you're going to add a margin and a page number, be consistent throughout. Don't have page number at the bottom right in one page, next page it's not there, the other page is on some other corner. Like, be consistent. If you have a margin, it should be there on all sides, all pages. Don't have like a 10 mm margin on one page and then go for a 15 mm on the other. You would think people won't notice, but it's one of the very, very, very obvious things people notice. Adding a blank page just to say the title of the project, that's just like a bad waste of a page. When you're limited by pages, I think if you get your intent behind adding a project page, that's how you say, okay, this is a break, I'm going to the next project. So instead of that, why don't you populate that page with the great graphic of your project, with something which gives an introduction to the project apart from just a blank page and the name of the project. So the one where I spoke about generating content for your portfolio, this is where that thing will, actually come into place. Generating a cover page just for your project. So, and then including all drawings from a project. Let me assure you, nobody is going to sit and see how you have designed something, or how well do you design. Absolutely nobody has the time to do that. So all they're going to see is your skills. If you present it well, your skills are shown, and if you have good skills, you get hired. That's it. Nobody cares about how well you are at designing, because that's what even I thought, that I should let them know that I did this great form-based design, and the person should know that I'm a design-oriented thinker. I can think like this, but it's not actually true. People just are looking for your skills. By that I mean software skills, presentation skills, graphic skills, and all those things. So your use of the page itself is very, very important, because that shows you that I can utilize this particular page so well. And then bad model images, where I have just put my model next to something embarrassing, like, I don't know, I got fail on a test and the model is just lying there, and then you click a picture. I think you should avoid such things. Are basic things, but it does happen. People just put lethargic model pictures. I know so many of you are so good at photography in your batches. Please hire your friend, get a professional photo shoot done for your model. It's worth all the effort, because you cannot carry your models anywhere. I don't have any of my models right now, but I'm in bad need of them, because my portfolio did not have any model images, and that's something I really wanted to show, but I did not have it. So when you have the chance, when the model is fresh, in good condition, let me tell you, it's a pain to clean the dust from the models. It just does not happen. If you think you can keep the model and do a professional photo shoot later, you are going to have a bad time getting rid of the dust. So when your semester is over and you're done with it, the model is fresh, go for a really good model photo shoot, and you don't have to include it in the portfolio now, but I would say, like, have it, because you never know when it's going to come in handy. I think in one of the recent MSA Instagram pages, I had seen these sheets of students where some background, some images had not even been cropped from their background. So I would say use PNG where it's required, that rectangular white background, and then you have placed it on something else. That just shows you did not even care to remove that thing because it makes it unreadable. Avoid unreadable font sizes because nobody is going to zoom into your document, not even once. People are just going to press on the right arrow continuously, and whatever text they see is all they read, not going to sit and zoom in. So when you're selecting a font size, make sure it's readable without even a single click of zoom in. It should be readable as is. So make sure of that. So where to look for inspiration before you begin a portfolio? These are like the usual go-to places. You go on issue, look at someone's portfolio, go on Pinterest, search for some images, but everybody is looking at these. Don't you? If you want to do something different, you should look at something else. But this is where I look for inspiration, or I thought, why didn't I look at it when I was in college? So universities actually come out with these books they have. So every year, these big universities, come out with an architectural portfolio of their own, which includes the design work which they have done that year. This not only gives you inspiration for generating content, how people have graphically represented a project, how well have they represented it. It also gives you design inspiration because when you're reading through this, you understand somebody else's project. So I think this is a great resource which is really underlooked. This also look at UI UX designers, look at websites, because I think websites master backend design because they automatically know that's a menu. So such things are really important for a portfolio. You can very well take inspiration from UI UX designers because they are trained in the art of user experience. So that's what we are attempting to do, make the user experience our portfolio. So this is a great place to look for inspiration. uh, Winning competition entries, they have won for a reason. There must be something right they did with their presentation, because competition entries are also on some terms equal to a portfolio, because they are again looking through hundreds of competition entries. So what is it that these winning entries did which got the attention of jurors? So they must have done something right. So look at them, look at the graphics. They have very limited pages to show their content. So they are forced, they are made to show their project in a single page. So look at how effectively or how smart they have been with representing a particular project and winning it on just a page. If they can do it with the page, we can do it on a portfolio. So you should definitely look at these things, and not on the surface level, but understand how has this graphic helped him win this competition. Second is okay. The last, I think there's another one. Okay, this magazines. I think magazines catch your attention. Nobody has mastered the art of catching someone's attention. Nobody has mastered the art of layouts as well as a magazine. I don't think there is a magazine which has really shitty layouts. So if you want to get layout inspiration, go to magazines. You will get a ton of inspiration from design magazines. So yes, I am done with my presentation. If anybody has any questions to ask, I am open to them. Okay, so nobody has any questions.
I think they just realized they just saw themselves in the mirror, I think, and they're shocked. And they
Okay.
realized how their work looks right now. Maybe I'm just assuming so. Not like it's with every single person here, but I have to say
Okay.
my comment right now would be like commendable work, Krithi. Thank you very much for this. I have
Thank you,
for
sir, for
some
giving me this platform.
for the
Also, quickly, I want to say something is for removing background. I mean, these are things I just discovered. I think they're a lifesaver. For removing background, go to this website called remove.bg. It's It's a great website. You just drag and put your picture in, and your background is gone. You don't have to go into Photoshop, nothing. It gives you a PNG. And if you're rendering or using humans or local elements for your sections or whatever, go to this website called Jugaad Render. You will find hundreds of Indian people out there which needs to go on your presentation. So local elements like, I don't know, pots, pans, Indian people carrying hay, tractor, all that you'll find on Jugaad Render.
I'm really happy that this particular session happened, and many from past 3-4 years, many people actually do come to me and ask me suggestions for their portfolios and everything. Uh, and now I know what to do next. I'll just share this video, and that's it. I'm done. It's so good and covered. I'm really happy that this.
Hopefully, I've covered every possible topic there is to on portfolio.
But as you said in the initial part, which is the individuality, right? What I think you helped way better than any other source right now, one single source, because they have to end up their individual approach also, like how you have found your style of doing it. So this is just a quick start for them. This will definitely help them in future to start out at a good level. From there, they have to find out what is the right way they would go ahead and take this entire approach. At least the initial troubles will be definitely sorted out, is what I feel. Thank you again.
Yes, sir. No problem, sir. If there is time, I would want to quickly run through my portfolio and show, I spoke a lot about how to do your portfolio, but if there is a practical way I've applied it, I really want to show people so that they understand how what I've spoken can be done. So first of all, I would like to tell that I was limited by the number of pages for this, and since it's an academic portfolio, I used it for my master's application. So what happens when you apply for master's is that on your portfolio, unless you've been working for say 10 or 15 years, you have to kind of show only your academic projects. So those of you interested in pursuing masters, I would say really focus on your academic projects and creating content for academic projects, because colleges are looking for academic projects. And I also want to tell you why. It's because when you go into an office, you cannot pinpoint say that I did this 100% myself. In an academic project you can, and that's what the college is looking for, something which you have done solely from start to the end. So I would say people interested, focus on your academic projects. So right away from my contents page, I want to establish the mood of the portfolio. I want to tell them that listen, you're not going to be looking at something which is going to be filled with realistic renders. It's going to be a fun, like a video game render, not too realistic, but not too unrealistic either. So I want to set the tone right away from my contents page itself, and I want to keep it really minimal. So that's why I went with this minimal, but also interesting and intriguing, because that I created with this particular typeface. So it's kind of like a clickable content page. So I worked on something like this. Then I start by my project where I think I worked a lot on ideating and creating layouts. So I start off with this. Got a lot loaded right now. So that's why I decide to free up the next page by going for a full bleed render. So even if nobody is going to read the plan over here, I know that nobody is going to look at the plan here. I am forcing them to look at the 3D here because there's nothing else they can look at. So if not the entire idea, they at least know, what I'm attempting. They know what my skill set is. Again, here, nobody is reading my drawings. I know that. That's why I've added a 3D. So you look at the 3D and you're done. The drawing is just kind of there to some people who are a little more interested than just 3D. Again, same goes with this. Same thing here. I've added this exploded here because it's a little bit different from the other houses. Okay, so since I've had like a really serious project all this while, I decided to break the rhythm with a fun project with fun colors and take off, cool your mind and look at this. This project is really simple. It's nothing complicated, and I know that it cannot be conveyed with the plant. It's just going to look like it's there. So I decided to add like a really big 3D. So you know what the project is just by this one diagram. And I must say that the day render of this was looking what's there. So I tried playing with the night render, and I ended up with a great result. So I decided to put the night render instead. So pick the particular, look at it as artistic projects and pick things which you think are maximizing your artistic view on your project. Look at them as art projects and do it. Then I go on to this, which where I want to show my research capabilities. So I go on for a really hardcore research and everything, heavy loaded project because this is my thesis. I cannot do any tomfoolery here, so all serious stuff. And then I decide to break it with this exercise is done for theory of architecture in, I don't know, second semester maybe. But this project stuck to me for a really long time. I had fun doing this. I still have those sheets, but of course I cannot put those sheets, so I had to for this entire portfolio, I actually had to create all the content from scratch because that's the mood of the portfolio I decided. So once I decided, I'm not going back by, putting some project which is done and then adding some shitty images. I want to go all through and, get in there and do it. So I created all this content again. So again, this is like a fun project. It's not it's not a hardcore design project, but it's something I did. But this is something I enjoy, form-based design. I enjoy, visual representation. So that's why I've gone with, like a lemon, like a green typeface color, and I've added these visual things. And it's also showing, a class I had attended. And I've also added this thing on top where I had told you about individuality. In the format itself. So I have added which professor guided me, what year I did the project in, and what is my learning income from this particular project. Here I decided to, I have, I've done so much of this, 3D type of rendering I'm doing. Let me break it up with this project where I attempt something different. So here I actually used only SketchUp to get this view. I've added, different details to it. And then again, all of this is just CAD and SketchUp work, which is a bit different from the others, but still it's very much in the mood of the portfolio. It's not straying too away from the portfolio. And this is the only professional project I've shown. So because my portfolio demanded that it needs more academic projects, so this is the only professional I have shown, where I am interested in this kind of set design and scene renderings like this. So I thought, why not create something for this particular project. So for the first page, I didn't have anything else great to show, so I didn't want to waste a blank space, but instead I decided to show what I'm good at in the intro page of my project. And then I show my other skills which I have, some commission projects I had done, and then I'm interested in writing, I'm interested in 3D artwork, so go on to show all that, and then I end my portfolio.
If you are unable to see this thing chat box, I'd like to ask the question. Okay, I mean, like,
yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, for what stream of masters was this actually portfolio created? I was just thinking.
I decided to go for masters in architecture, so this is totally geared only towards that.
Okay.
Core design, masters in architecture.
Okay.
Hello, my was what were the comments after you sent the portfolio? Did they put out any comments to you? Like this is
no, colleges do not get back to you with comments on your portfolio.
Okay.
Because apart from portfolio, you also need to submit other things. So they're not going to individually comment on certain portfolios. You're in or you're out. That's about it.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation, Krithi. It was really nice. I hope we had got this when we were doing our portfolio.
I know. Yeah, I understand.
So, the question I have is, a lot of them advise us not to put most text in your portfolio. Like avoid text, do not put text. So it'd be better if you advise them on how to go about that.
Yes, this was something I recently discovered and kind of annoyed me, is that when we do AD presentations or we start a portfolio, you're immediately shot down by saying, oh my God, there is so much text, remove it. So for a portfolio, it's your space. If you are someone who's interested in writing, go ahead and put that text. Don't let it stop. But also have, visual content. Don't make it just text. But if you really want to get into an office which is geared towards more of writing content, more of research content, if you are someone who's interested in writing, I would say go ahead and please do it. We need more people who write, which is lacking in the industry right now. So if you're good at writing, you want to give it a shot, give it a shot. There's no harm in adding a page, showcasing your writing skills, or even describing your projects, because when we speak, we tend to, say things about our project. Only when you write about your project is when you discover that, okay, what do I have in my project which is worth writing? Because while saying it's pretty much natural to all of us to talk random things about our project, but when you write, you actually gain much more insight into your own project. So those of you out there who are interested in writing, do not get I'd say demotivated by this phase of, oh, your page has so much text, remove it. Go ahead and do it. I think it's a great thing to do, because if not now, you are not going to do it. So just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, Krithi, I just had this thing, issue. Like, suppose, like, some of us will be having few animations to show, probably, like some animations which we have done showing some flow of water or something. But when it comes to putting it in portfolio, right, it turns out to be a page. Or sometimes if we are publishing it on ISO or something, it turns out that it will end up being an image, and links are like they have to copy paste it and then go to some other website and do it. So is there any software or something where we can directly embed these videos?
I would say use something called hyperlinks, so they don't have to copy and paste, they just have to click on your link.
Okay.
Or I would say if you can come up with this online websites where you can pay a certain amount and showcase your work, go ahead and put it on that website. So you can have different visual mediums, so video, audio, all those things put there. But if you're going for a PDF presentation, that's going to be hard. So I would say include something called hyperlink. You can read about how to include a hyperlink in your PDF.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem, man. Guys, I have like 15 more minutes on the meeting. Any of you have any more questions? I'm open to answering any lame question you might have. No judgments, because I have been in that place where you are right now. So if you have any doubts, just like feel free to ask me.
Yeah, we've been talking about this portfolio to a lot of people and then discussing it with so many people, and I think we were in such a in a state where we didn't know. It was so confusing on how to go forward. I think your the presentation has cleared up a lot of things personally, so I thank you. That's what I wanted to say.
That's what I was aiming for. I'm so happy that it made that happen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Krithi. It's me, Vaitamanidhi.
Hi. Hopefully it was helpful for everybody.
Yeah.
Both the years. So yeah, I was going to end my presentation by saying that if you want to get your portfolio reviewed or want some feedback, please feel free to forward your portfolios. I'll put my email ID in the chat box, and please feel free to email me.
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much. Krithi. This is Tarita. Till now, I never understood the purpose of making a portfolio. I just wanted to fun for the sake of doing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm really happy that many second years also are part of this conversation, and they have a kind of a future self coming back and telling them what not to do. I think it'll be.
Oh yeah. Now they know how much importance whatever they do carries, and they have to get in there and create everything. So I think they'll start putting in the right effort towards these projects now.
So I think you can end with a message to your juniors, and then we'll call it a day.
Okay, so yeah, guys, don't go with what everybody is saying that you need to include 3 plans, 2 elevations, and 1 section. If you just want to go with a section, just go with a section. That's all on you. So I would say a portfolio gets shot down only because of these standards that everybody upholds. So I would love to leave this presentation with you guys, so you can go back and look at it. And hopefully you celebrate your projects for your internship and showcase them like their works of art.
All the best again for you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you again, and hope many of your batchmates also will join in future series. And
yes,
as you said, this is all about individuality, and every single student of MSA right now is looking forward for you people and try to understand what you have done and kind of inspire from more. So please spread out the message that everybody, if they have anything to share, anything to share to their juniors. It is basically an informal session. It is not a formal session yet. So please ask them to come to use this platform and start spreading the message to their own juniors right now. That's all.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for giving me all these messages on the chat box. I'm reading everything. Thank you so much. This is what I intended to do. That I'm really happy that the message got through, because that's what I was worried about. I did not want to be one of the person who is just saying and you guys don't know how does this translate. So I'm happy it's getting you some kind of a direction.